Now, I was so looking forward with this being my first video of the new year to show you behind the scenes of a recent photo shoot at an amazing location, Whitford Lighthouse in the Gower Peninsula, South Wales. But things didn't go according to plan because shortly after this, my tripod fell over along with my camera, lens and filter and crashed onto the rocks. Now, amazingly, nothing broke. But with the sudden bad weather, me being completely soaked through, I decided to call it a day and I only actually managed to rattle off maybe 4 test shots. So a video from that location will have to wait. However, I do have something completely different for you, especially if you are a photographer that takes pictures of people, be it individuals or groups, and you put backgrounds behind them. Oh, and in the description part of this video, I've included a link so that you can download the exact same files to follow along. Now, if ever you find yourself taking pictures but the background that you want to use behind the subjects just isn't big enough, this is a super fast fix to make it look as if the background you had was just the right size. So in this example here, here's a picture I took of a beefeater called Scott Kelly from the Tower of London. The background I was using was only 7 foot tall by 5 foot wide, so it just wasn't good enough to reach the very, very top and the very, very bottom. So what I ended up doing, and this is what the first part of this is to take 2 pictures where you've moved the background so that it does cover every area that you need it to cover. Once you've got that, then we'll open these images up in Photoshop. So let me just select both of these in Camera Raw and we'll click on Open to send them both over into Photoshop in 2 separate tabs. Alright, so now that we've got both images open in Photoshop, I just need to crop out areas in both of the images where there is no background. So I'll just get my crop tool and we'll drag in from the left to say around about there. And we'll drag in from the right to around about there. That's the first one. Let's go to the other tab, get the other image, and let's zoom in just a little bit. Use the crop tool to drag in. We don't need the sides because there's just no background on there and no background on that side. All right, cool. So that's the first part done. Then we need to put both of these images on top of each other so that we can blend them together to make it look as if that background was bigger than it really was. So with this one here, I'm going to click down with my move tool, drag upwards onto the tab at the top of the screen containing the other image, then bring my cursor down on top, hold down the shift key and it will place it perfectly in the middle. However, you can see that when I turn one of the layers on and off that they're not perfectly aligned. So we need to line them up first of all. The way we do that over in the layers panel is make sure that both layers are highlighted. We can see the top one is at the moment. If I hold down the shift key, click on the one below, they're now both highlighted. Then we go to the edit menu and choose auto align layers. Now we get this big properties box comes up here. Don't really need to bother with this whatsoever. Just leave it in the default and then click OK. Just a moment later, you'll see things happen and Photoshop has done a really good job of lining these 2 layers up. In fact, you can see here as well that Scott, who I was photographing, did a really good job of standing still in between each photograph. Now the next thing we need to do is just to get rid of, now that they're all both lined up, is to get rid of areas where there is no background. So on this layer here, there's no background in the lower part, and in this one here, there's no background in the upper part. So let's just get rid of what we don't need now that they're both lined up. So I will get my marquee tool. You can see in the layers panel, I'm active on this particular layer. So if I get my marquee tool and drag out a selection of that very, very bottom part, all the way there, you can see the marching ants going around it. And I'm just going to press delete on my keyboard to get rid of it. We don't need that anymore. And we'll close that selection down. Now let's go to the other layer, turn off the other one. So we've just got this one visible. And I'm going to get my marquee tool again, drag out a selection going right across the top, like so. And then press delete. All right, so let's turn both of the layers on. And this is what we've got. So now what we need to do is blend these 2 layers together so it looks as if that grey background was bigger than it really was. And you know, even if you had so many years experience in Photoshop, that could still take quite a bit of time if you did it manually. But thankfully we don't have to do it manually. There is a super fast quick fix built into Photoshop. All we need to do is to make sure over in the layers panel that both layers are highlighted. So we've got one of them highlighted at the moment. Hold down the shift key, click on the other layer, so they're now both highlighted, they're both active. Then go back to that edit menu and choose auto blend layers. Now here we get a very small dialog box appear. The blend method we can just leave in panorama. We don't need to worry about that. The important part is at the bottom. Seamless tones and colors. We are definitely going to make sure that that checkbox is ticked. And at the bottom as well, we've got content aware fill, transparent areas. Make sure there's a tick in that checkbox as well, because now that we've cropped all the backgrounds out, there are some areas on our picture here that have got nothing in them. So ideally what's going to happen is it's going to blend the grey background together so it looks like one big background, and at the same time it's going to fill in all the other little empty bits as well. So let's just click OK. Starts to do its processing. Things are going to start to happen, but again, imagine how long this would take to do it manually. Keep an eye on the actual layers panel. Things have definitely happened, and any second now it's all going to pause and say it's all job done. And there you go. Let's just cancel that selection now. I mean, look at that. That background now is like it was, way above 7 foot tall. Just unbelievable. Of course, it's not finished yet. I mean, we've got a little bit of tidying up to do here, and that'd be really simple to do using something like, you know, the patch tool. We could very easily start to tidy this up. But the hard work, the stuff that would take the long time, blending that background together, has all been done. So now we can have a bit of fun and just carry on doing the retouching. No more heavy, hard lifting work to do. Now, the background I was actually using in this photo shoot is called the X-Drop, and that's made by Westcott. But the way I had it set up meant that there was a gap between the bottom of it and the actual floor. So to fill that gap in, all I did in Photoshop was add a shape, stretch it out all the way across the image so it looked like kind of skirting board, and then added a layer mask and just brushed it away in certain parts so that it looked like it was behind Scott. But, you know, really simple to do. But I absolutely love this technique. It has saved me on more than one occasion. And what I really love about it is that all the hard work, all the heavy lifting is done by Photoshop. So if you've liked this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button, because that's a great free way that you can support this channel. But for this week, that's me. We're all done. I'll see you next time.